Jerry, we're nearly there. I like it feels like we're just getting
It's
started.
bollocks. It's
What's going
bollocks.
on? Yeah.
One episode left.
What?
Oh,
I
load of
know. I know.
shite.
It feels like it just got started. Like the first 5 minutes, like everyone's getting back together, and then we're nearly the end. All right. Well, I don't want to, I want to do this, but I don't want to end doing this because then we'll only have one time left. But for the second last time in this run, it's gone by too quickly. I suppose we better do this, guys. Star Jers, it's fucking Star Jers, Jers talking Star Wars, Jerry and Jer. Star Jers, it's fucking Star Jers, Jers talking Star Wars, Jerry and Jer. Because a long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, otherwise known as Zoom, two Jerrys got on the call to discuss Ahsoka every single week because we are two huge Star Wars fans. And this week, we are set to discuss episode 7 of this show, which obviously up to this point we have been loving. So let's get to our thoughts shortly. But before we begin, as always, we're going to give a spoiler warning. Guys, if you're looking to remain spoiler free for Ahsoka, you're not in a safe space. It's a recap section of the show. So watch the episode first, then come back to us. As always, we're going to be discussing everything in the Star Wars canon that has got us to this point, but we'll be discussing it to enhance, not spoil your viewing pleasure. So we may discuss aspects of Rebels, we may discuss aspects of the novels of Thrawn or Ahsoka, the Clone Wars, the prequel, sequel, all the trilogies, all the movies, the video games, everything's up for grabs. But the good news is we don't know what's going to happen next in this story because we are charting new ground. But before we begin discussing of the episode and what we thought of it, as always, we're going to put you right back into our mind frame with our alt recap for part 7. And in the Senate, Xiono is being a bit of a dick when judging Hera until renowned badass C-3PO shows up on behalf of Leia to verify that she signed off on the mission. Xiono refers to him as a mere droid, pretty much guaranteeing that he's going to wake up in the bath missing organs with Chopper standing over him at a point in the very near future. 100%. Did you see Chopper's reaction? He's going to murder that guy. Ahsoka is training with a pre-recorded video of Anakin motivating her like a creep watching old moments from their relationship on their phone while listening to Air Supply. They arrive in Peridian and are greeted by an Imperial minefield and a battle in a debris field. Thrawn hears that her master was Anakin Skywalker and instantly pulls away his fighters and takes a swift trip to the bathroom for a change of his Imperial-sanctioned underwear. Ezra is taking Sabine out on a hot date with the Nodies in their Hobbit-like mobile homes, which is about on par with a trip on a rickshaw in Dublin City, but to be fair, probably the best he can do in the circumstances, and also less drugs. She's catching him up with all the galaxy goss. Palpatine's dead, the Battle of Endor, but he's somehow most surprised by her being trained as a Jedi than everything else, which is another hard L for poor Sabine's self-esteem there. The good news is she pops her Force cherry moments later by hearing Ahsoka reach out to her to track her down. Baylan and Shin also track them down, but Baylan picks now to tell Shin that he's going to do a Samuel L. Jackson in Pulp Fiction and go from being a badass gangster to living off the Peridian land instead. Ezra and Sabine square off with Shin and her fighters, with Ezra doing what they call the old, in Coruscant, they called it the old Jedi bareback of fighting with no lightsaber and only using the Force. Ahsoka duels with Baylan, but he's in holiday mode now, so when she makes a quick getaway, he doesn't even bother to give chase. In his mind, he's already on a Peridian lounge chair and sunglasses. Ahsoka saves the day as Thrawn calls off the attack, still claiming victory because I don't know what his reasoning here was. I don't know, it's something like, isn't having time with the people you love the real victory if you think about it or something. Ezra and Ahsoka are reunited and hug it out. She finally came and found him after all those years ago in Rebels. He asked her to. He says that he thinks he's going home after all, and everyone watching flipped out at him for instantly jinxing it. And that was part 7 of Ahsoka, Dreams and Madness. Jerry, Another action-packed episode of Ahsoka. A lot going on. This one, as all of them are, was written by Dave Filoni. It was directed, though, by Geeta Vasant Patel, who's perhaps best known for directing the best episode of House of the Dragon, which was the one, the last episode with Viserys in it, which was an excellent one. You may remember. Do you remember the walk where, yeah, it's like King Viserys? Oh, that was incredible. So look, you're getting high-class people here, but what were your overall thoughts on Dreams and Madness?
I thought this show is just amazing. It is just amazing. I know they are going at a very deliberate pace. You know, this I thought at the start it kind of started off like, okay, well, what's going to happen here, and which was quite surprising actually. To see your man put in his place was fucking brilliant. But there's obviously more to him than meets the eye. But we're probably not going to get that this season. The fact that we got C-3PO, and he was a bit more like, he's never really forceful in terms of him talking, and he was like, no, actually, this come from the boss, so basically, fuck you. And it was great to see Chopper. As like, Chopper really wanted to murder the guy. I was like, God, he really is a dirty murderous bastard. It took the guy with the beard. What's his name? It took him to like, here, calm down. I was like, I'm gonna get that bastard. But no, it a fantastic scene. It's their way of giving us Leia without giving us Leia, and I'm kind of grateful for that. I'm like, yeah, it's a nice little touch. It really was a nice little touch. But for me, though, it has now basically decanonized a book.
Okay.
So the book about Leia, Jesus Christ, Leia, and the galaxy finding out that she was Darth Vader's daughter, is set before this. It's set before this. So, and then as soon as that happened, she stopped being a senator. So, but in this, she's a senator. I was like, that's interesting. It's interesting to see what they've done there.
I do want to touch more on 3PO now. Like, so yeah, we will get to 3PO as we go on, because that is a great cameo. But overall, kind of high level thoughts on
it. The episode, great. What I find is, and I think Filoni's actually very good at this. If you go back and watch Rebels, he has a way of taking our attention away from some things, and makes you think about something very, very specifically. So for me, it's the whole thing with Baylan, and we're now. My mind is now so concentrated on Baylan that I feel like I'm missing other things.
Okay,
and I think as we progress through this, I will explain what I mean.
Tell me, right? Yeah.
But I think my mind is now so much on Baylan and what he's searching for, that it's now like, oh shit, did I miss something there? And I kind of went, right, okay, no, I have to have a look at this.
Wow.
So I still think my theory from last week is valid.
Okay.
And
I don't.
I know you don't, but there is something about it. But we will get into it. We'll get into it. Absolutely. Okay. But fantastic episode, slightly better pace this week. Obviously, we have reunions. We have people coming together. I'm very happy that none of the whales died. That was good.
Yes.
That was really good. So the interaction between every week I forget people's names. The droid, Ahsoka's droid,
Chopper. Oh no, sorry, Huyang.
That interaction between them. He's like, oh, at least we have some cover from the whales, and then whales are like, fuck this, hyperspace out of there. You had to open your mouth, didn't you? You stupid bastard.
That was brilliant.
But we actually did. See, this is the thing. We actually got a second cameo in this that we didn't think we were going to get, and that was Anakin. That was a cameo of there. Because I was actually wondering about that, because the soundbite of him saying what he said in this episode didn't appear in last week's episode. I'm like, okay, or the previous week's episode, whenever Anakin was in 5. So I was like, okay, well, we must be getting something else. And this was obviously the perfect way to do it. So the little recording. So she said she had 20 recordings. I'm like, interesting. Interesting.
Yeah.
What more information is there? You know,
There's a lot in it. There really was. They covered a
Yeah.
lot of ground.
There was a lot in this. But again, I think they did a lot in this episode. But Dave Filoni has you centralized now on what's actually going on there. You know, so it's for me anyway, and it's just because I'm a deep dive Star Wars guy. I am now, my mind is concentrating on one thing, and am I missing something elsewhere? I'm like, okay. So
that's really interesting. It's kind of like also a real testament to Dave Filoni, because at the same time, like, do you remember we watched the trailer and like we're like, who are those new guys? And it's like, I don't want new people. I want to know what's happening to the people we care about. But actually, now you're totally distracted, even while we're getting Ezra and Thrawn back, and you're like, what's going on with the new guy though? Which is a real testament to kind of Dave Filoni's character work and how he can build up people, as well as Ray Stevenson's performance. I think these episodes absolutely fly by. Like, they're just over and you're like, oh, just get into it. It's so good. And that's not a bad thing because you're enjoying it so much. This is interesting because, okay, I want to say off the top, I think I liked this episode, and I think I'm gonna love this episode when I watch it back in future years. Okay. But the fact, for me, I was a little bit distracted by the fact that it was the penultimate episode. And I think Star Wars series sometimes suffer from the same thing that Marvel series can, in that there's such an established kind of ending to a Star Wars story that we kind of know by the end the pieces are all going to come into play, especially Dave Filoni. Like, we know at the end of it, at the end of a Dave Filoni series, because we've seen Mando now, we know all the main characters are going to come together and there's going to be a big battle and stuff like that. In the same way we know how our Marvel series is going to end. So I think the intrigue in these series, in both Marvel and Star Wars series, is almost more in the middle. And then this one, and just the season and the necessity of the story, it's strangely paced. You know what I mean? And that's not to say, like, you kind of praise the episode for how well paced it was, and I agree with it. Like, as a 45-minute piece of television, if you just watch it by itself, yes. But just in terms of what we're used to from, and I consider the likes of these shows prestige TV, but what we're used to from the likes of Game of Thrones and the likes, again, with the penultimate episode being the big episode where it like really sets up like the finale and the big things happen, that wasn't what this was. This was the one where we almost got to experience what normal life is for our characters. There's a lot of action in here, but kind of we got to see what Hera's normal every day is like. We got to see kind of like Sabine and Ezra having that chilled out moment. We get to see Thrawn just being the general. We get to see Ahsoka kind of like getting back to herself and being a bit sassy again with Hu Yang. And again, that's important in any series, because we need to have that quality time spent with the characters to kind of, I think, you know, you need that time because you need to show people what they're fighting for. You need to show them a bit of normal, and you need to make us love them, because then when you take that away or you threaten that creates tension. So we want them to get back to that. You know what I mean? It's like in Game of Thrones. We always wanted Brienne and Sansa to get back together, or we always wanted the Hound and Arya to get back together, because we had those nice warm moments with them, you know? And when they weren't, we were agitated. That was tension. That was drama. It's just strange that happened in the penultimate episode. And I get that it had to happen because a large part of the intrigue of the season was, when will they find Ezra and Thrawn? So we need to have this episode in the middle where they're just kind of all hanging out before shit hits the fan. So that's the only thing that kind of caught me. And when I watched it originally, I was kind of like, I like that episode. There was a lot in it, but I don't know. I'm just feeling a bit like, where's the rest of it? And where's the mad shit happening? I've every faith, because we also know from Dave Filoni's history, particularly with Rebels, his finales are phenomenal. He knows how to do the shit out of finale. So I believe in him. But that was just how I felt at this episode. Then I watched it again today before we did, where I was kind of putting my more critical mind on, and I liked it a lot more. And I think I'm going to like it a lot more the more times I watch it. It's not a bad episode of TV, but just it being the penultimate episode that needs to set up the finale, it just kind of seemed like a happy ending, which I'm sure is probably not a good thing. But it doesn't leave me waiting on the finale with bated breath in the way that I think a penultimate episode should. We kind of touched on this, and I want to get into this properly because I said last week that I didn't want to see a de-aged, computerized Leia. I can kind of forgive it with Luke because, you know, Mark Hamill's still alive, but seeing it done with Carrie Fisher, I don't know, it just seemed off. And I don't know, I kind of want to have that discussion with you. But a computerized C-3PO was a great way to kind of get around it, and you kind of forget that the original trilogy survivors are at play here. Like, we've got Han, Chewie, Lando, they're all in the mix, as well as all the Mandalorian characters. They're all in the mix for potential cameos. I don't think we're getting the likes of Han again. I don't think they're brave enough to bring back like the actor from Solo, Alden Ehrenreich, I think, or something like that. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I thought this was really clever. I'm not a huge 3PO guy, but also I'm not going to savage them for anticipating that, oh no, I don't want to see computer Carrie Fisher, and then kind of giving me a cool moment instead. So I was a fan of this moment. But yeah. I want to ask about this. Was this the right call? Or do you feel... I heard a great debate, and I kind of was like, I want to pick Jerry's brain on that. Leia's a big character to not have in this, and she is a part of it. Is it almost worth exploring? I'm going to say something sacrilegious here. Is it worth exploring recasting the likes of her and Luke, taking the risk?
The way I look at it is, right, and we'll take Luke, for instance, okay? There was a lot of speculation that we were going to get more Luke, even before we saw him in The Mandalorian. And I was like, okay, that means a de-aged Mark Hamill. And I'm like, okay. If it was a little bit like we've gotten, then I don't mind. Because he's still, as you say, he's still around, he's de-aged, and that's fine. But then there was the speculation was, right, well, they might recast him. I was like, well, who do you get to recast him? And again, I'm showing my stupid brain here with not being able to remember names, but Winter Soldier, what was his name?
Oh, Sebastian Stan.
Sebastian Stan. They put like a side-by-side Sebastian Stan and a younger Luke Skywalker. I was like, actually, you know what? Give him the wig. He's a great actor. Have Mark Hamill on set and have Mark Hamill go through, you know, mannerisms and things like that. I would be all fucking over that. Give me a slightly aged Alden Iden. Every time I hear that name, I just want to hear Heidenreich. Heidenreich. It's not Heidenreich. It's so ridiculous.
But
Alden Ehrenreich. Give me a slightly older version of him, and throw him in. And if you really, really, really have to do it, okay. If you really are dead set on, right, we're actually going to recast him. We're going to do the whole heir to the Empire thing. We're going to do all those stories and have those characters in it. Like, you could have Chewie in it because it's fucking, it's a guy in a suit. It doesn't matter.
Same as 3PO.
Same 3PO and R2-D2. It's fine. Yeah. Now, the thing is, 3PO was actually, again, I can't remember his name, but it was him. It wasn't a computerized version of 3PO, by the way. It was a physical fucking person. So I was like, yeah, deadly.
Anthony Daniels.
Anthony Daniels, thank you. But if you're going to do Leia, then why not get her daughter? Because she looks like her. She's a great actress. She's already been in Star Wars. Get her daughter, do her up exactly like Leia, and do it that way. Fuck it. If we're going to do it, let's do it properly. Let's not just get some random people here. Let's get people who are actually going to be really good for these roles, who know the history of Star Wars, who've been part of the show before, apart from Winter Soldier, apart from him. But again, he has the look, he has the acting chops to be able to take it on. I think it would be a good idea. Is it going to happen? No. Of course it's not going to happen, because Disney won't actually give us exactly what we want. They'll give us what we think we want. And that's just not going to happen. I would love to see it happen, because I would actually love to see those Solo characters come back. I thought, you know, Solo and geez, my God, what's wrong with my brain? Seriously. He played he was in. He was the original owner of the Millennium Falcon. What's his fucking name?
Lando.
Thank you, Lando.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Like, I think we'd all be okay with Donald Glover. Everyone loves Donald Glover being recast. So, yeah, it can work. Yeah, I agree.
I think so. I think, and the the rumors now are that he was going to be getting a show, but he's actually getting a movie now.
Yeah,
I'm very happy with that as well because Donald Glover's fantastic. Are we going to see it in terms of you have to have some sort of the originals in this big fuck off movie that we're going to get from Dave Filoni? It has to happen. You can't just forget about these characters. It's not like, oh, they're in another part of the galaxy, because they're not. They are an integral part of this. There has to be something. There has to be someone. At the end of the day, this and I've been checking this. The timeline is very shaky on where exactly this lies. I looked up the original trilogy, and between the Battle of Yavin and Return of the Jedi, it's between 4 and 5 years. Nobody will actually say exactly what it is, between 4 and 5 years. And now people are saying, well, this is actually set 8 years after the Battle of Yavin. I said, well, that doesn't add up. It doesn't add up because Jason, that's in the show, is about 12. So it's at least 12 years after. So if that's the case, that makes this then around about 7 to 8 years after Battle of Endor. So it these things, it's not like they're going to disappear. You've got Luke now. Luke is only about 5 or 6 years creating this Jedi Temple and the new Jedi Order. But when we see when we see Kylo Ren in the temple before he turns, he has to be between say 15 and 18. So you're talking is years later. So it's not like Luke is gone. He's there. Leia is there. Solo is there. Fucking everybody is there. Chewie is there. So they have to be added in some way. You can't you're not going to be bringing Harrison Ford back. You're just not going to do it because he's like, I barely came back for the sequels, Dad. I'm not going to come back for this. So why not use the recast people to do it? I think it would be a great idea. It means then you have the possibility that after the Mando stuff is done, the Ahsoka stuff is done, and then this Endgame type movie, there's a possibility you could give us more. You could give us another. You could give us a show with these characters in it. You could give us another series of movies with these characters in it. Honestly, you could do so much. Like, I don't know how Disney aren't going, that's a cash cow right there. That Star Wars is a cash cow, but this here, that's billions.
I think it's Solo. I think it's Solo that put them off because of the blowback they got with Alden. And so I think that's the fear. But my God, I love the suggestion of having Billie Lourd come in and play her mom. Like, because she's such a brilliant actor in her own right. And like, again, I think I can see it now. I can literally see it. And I was so against it, but then you said that suggestion and I'm like, yes, do it right now. Because it's very
Billie Lourd, right? Billie Lourd,
it's like Gandolfini's kid playing him in the Spanish movie.
There you go. And I'm sorry, but he was fucking great.
Brilliant.
Okay, he was brilliant. Bring in Billie Lourd. Number one, she worked alongside her mother in the sequel trilogy. Okay. Number two, she was in Rogue One as her fucking mother. Now, I know they superimposed Carrie Fisher's face onto her. It's still fucking her. I'm sorry. You give her a chance. You give Alden Ehrenreich a chance. You give... I keep saying it, but Winter Soldier a chance.
Sebastian
Stan. My Jesus, what could you do with this? What could you do? Now, I tell you, I would say it now. I'm going to say it now. You would be hooking that to my penis straight away. I'm telling you now.
Would you stop hooking things to your penis, please, sir?
Just.
Can we go 1 week without you hooking something to your penis?
No, the thing is, this episode, for me, there was nothing in this episode that was hooked to my penis this week. But these ideas that we're coming up with, I'm sorry, Jesus.
You're finding new things, even when there's nothing there.
Here, listen, I have to get my fix. Fuck that.
Well, like, it's interesting though, because there was a lot of throwbacks there for us. Like, if you look at we had Anakin, of course, there, the training video. We had Sabine catching Ezra up, kind of explaining everything. I'm delighted they put that in because, like, and I'm delighted with the way they did it. Like, it was just like a 2-minute reference, like, of a conversation that had already happened. But the fact that we saw it, and it really hammered home, because I think I didn't really think about it until even after we'd recorded, and I'm like, oh yeah, Ezra doesn't know Vader's dead. Ezra doesn't know the Empire's gone. Ezra doesn't know anything. So like, I'm glad they were referring to that, and we got that kind of moment of realization.
There was one other thing as well. There was one during that conversation. We have finally gotten mention of Zeb.
Yes.
Finally.
We got Zeb. And we also got sassy Ahsoka back. So there's a lot there. So now we have proper Ahsoka just having the laughs where like she was just winding Hu Yang up because he's like, we discussed it a lot of times. And she's like, I don't remember any of that. And he's like, and then she's just like, ah. I'm like, yes, everything is kind of coming into play. What were your thoughts on these? What was your favorite kind of throwback moments?
There was a few here. I loved C-3PO. I'm sorry, but that was great.
Yeah.
That was absolutely fantastic. You know what? You could give me an actual a series about him, R2-D2, and Chopper teaming up, and like I would actually really enjoy that. That would be cool because you've got like the scared shitless C-3PO. You've got the really clever, being able to solve any situation, R2-D2, and then you've got the murderous bastard that is Chopper, and that's the perfect trilogy there. Absolutely fantastic.
Love it.
It was great. The little bit of interaction saying that Leia actually authorized it, and just you know your man, the other senator there, actually getting everything shoved back in it. He's like, no, I've no objection. He's like, ha, you're not going against Leia, you little shit. Not a fucking hope. You're no way you're going against her. But it could be that if they are going with that whole story that Leia kind of gets disgraced and she has to leave and becomes the general again, it would be him that leads the march. That you could kind of see that. That would be cool. Yeah. You've got the right. So what I said at the start, you've got something that is kind of. It's not when you're watching it. You're watching everything that's there, but when you're actually thinking about the episode, the thing that goes to my mind immediately is the Balin stuff. So when you're actually looking at the reunion talk between Ezra and Sabine, you're not really concentrating that much on it because you're thinking, what the fuck is Balin looking for? What's going on here?
And we'll chat Balin.
No, we will. Don't worry. But we're going with this. So basically, I had to go back a little bit and watch it again. I had to because I'm like, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know you think I'm crazy. I know you think I'm crazy now. Last week you were like, that's a credible fucking thing. This week you're like, it's not credible, Jerry. They all met up and it's all happy days.
Yeah.
No, I'm sorry, it's not. I'm telling you now, there is something wrong with Ezra.
No.
There is something wrong with Ezra for many, many reasons, and we'll get to go through the conversation first.
Okay.
But he was like, oh, so the Emperor's gone, and the Emperor has gone. Okay. So maybe I'll go home now. And I'm sorry, but this whole reunion with Ezra has been so flat for me that I'm sorry. It's not. That's not Filoni. Filoni is not about. Oh, it's just. Oh, they met up and then Ahsoka came in, giving the big hugs. Oh, we're all laughs. Everything's happy days. I'm sure we're going home. Bollocks. I'm saying it now. Absolute utter bollocks. There is something about Ezra. Number one, he refused to take the lightsaber offer. Refused. No, that's yours now.
He gave her the lightsaber.
I'm going to. Yeah, but she had her blasters. You know, I have no weapon. The Force is my friend. Fuck off. Now, I'm saying it now, right? Now you may agree, you may not agree. Okay. He was fighting, and his fighting style was like that's actually quite cool. I like that.
Yeah.
But his Force pushes were the weakest of weak. He was like,
I do want to focus on that specifically. That is a point we will get to later, though. I do want to focus on that specifically.
So on the we've got the throwback. So you've got the fact that she mentioned Zeb, and I'm like, yes, fucking yes. I'm like, right. I think Jer's right. I think we may be getting them next week.
Okay.
I think we may be, but that's the more conversation for later because I've fucking more shit to do with that. Oh, this week has literally blown my mind.
Set your brain on fire. So, I love it.
To me, though, so you've got the callback of C-3PO and Leia. You've got the callback of Ezra finally learning what actually happened after he left and talking about Zeb and stuff like that. Great. Her not willing to talk about how she got there. Yeah. Where's Ahsoka? I'm like, oh yeah, that's very naughty. But for me, the Anakin hologram was fantastic. He's just great. I'm sorry, but he is. He's just great. And even if he was just in this little throwaway hologram that she's doing a bit of training for because I have to get into battle here. It was just great. It really, really was. It's anything to do with Anakin now is a plus because number one, how well received it was. Number two, how good it was. That 5th episode, Now, like 3 weeks on, I'm like, Jesus Christ, it's pure Star Wars. Pure, like Filoni is just, we have so much to be thankful for, and he is the main reason to be thankful, because Star Wars fans are finally getting not only what we wanted, but I think what we deserve. I'm like, we have gone through a couple of years of mediocre movies, and not like they were good to me. I liked the films, but they weren't pure Star Wars. Whereas we're Jesus, every week we're getting pure Star Wars here, and Filoni just knows how to do it. He really is the chosen one with regards to this whole thing. He really, really is. I want to actually point to something that I noticed from last week, because I want to when Ahsoka was having that conversation with Hu Yang, and they were talking about stories, and she was like, "Well, I like 1, 2, and 3." I'm like, she referred to the films, and she's like, "Yeah, well, the first one was my favorite, and actually, Filoni's favorite film is The Phantom Menace, which is fucking mental." So it was like, and then the whole thing about a long time ago, Galaxy Far, Far Away, that was fucking great. So the stuff with Hugh Yang is actually really, really good. I'm really loving his character. Um, I want to see where they go with it. I don't want to see anything happen to him. But if we're looking at throwbacks, you've got, as I said, the Leia and C-3PO stuff was fucking great. You've also got the stuff with Sabine now. The reunion, I thought, again, as I said, I just felt the reunion was very, you're here. Big hugs, right? We're all a happy family again. It's just missing something.
Okay.
And just to me, I know people think I'm fucking crazy, but I'm sorry, but my theory has now picked up steam. Other people are now saying that they feel there's something wrong with Ezra. He's just not the same. He is trying. It's almost like he's trying to be playful and trying to be funny with her, and not actually really him. I don't know. I just feel like we are getting something different. We're getting something new.
Okay. We will talk Ezra in a little bit, 100%, because I want to give it its own time, because I do want to kind of respect the theory. I think that was great. I love the Anakin. I'm told what I loved about the Anakin thing most is that, like, it was fairly, aside from, like, you know, he's referencing like Grievous and Ventress and Dooku, amazing. Like, they're just throwing away extra characters here, and it's just like they're making the world so big. It's like Leia was mentioned here, Ventress was mentioned here, Dooku, like everyone's getting everyone's getting brought up. It's like, no, all your characters are on the table, don't you worry. But also what I loved about it was that it was when Hayden, his arc finished up in the World Between Worlds. It was like, oh, well, I'd love if that wasn't it, but it probably is it. And now it's like, no, he can come back at any stage, because Ahsoka is just a part of Ahsoka, and she's now more open to having him, letting him in, and so on. And I love how now Ahsoka the White is kind of sassy. She's more like her old self. She's coming back into it. Another little bit that I loved was Sabine saying, when she was asked about Palpatine dying, she just said, "So they say." And I'm like, love that. That is brilliant. That is just a nod to, like, yeah, because they know if she'd have said yes, people would have jumped all over it. So it's just a little nod to everyone at home. So yeah, loving the throwbacks here. I want to talk about what's new though, okay? Because I appreciate it. You've been holding off and biting your tongue. It was distracting you all episode. And I want to share something with you first, and then it feels like you've got something else to kind of share. So I'd love to hear you kind of, if anything, prove me wrong. For me, with Baylan and Shin, I left it last week thinking it was the most interesting part of this series. I'm not saying that it's not, but there's just such a short amount of time in this series to go. Like, that it feels to me like we're going to end up being disappointed here, and it's going to be nobody's fault, because it feels like they just rightfully wrote Ray Stevenson an amazingly big part that's going to not be confined to one series, and it's just not going to play out, because who could have foreseen this? Like, this week, I feel like they're going to just end with, like, this is going to end with a cliffhanger. And it's the one thing we've been really hoping doesn't happen, but there's only one show left in this series. And now I'm the opposite, if anything, to you. And feel free to change my mind on this. But, like, I was looking at this going, oh, they're not explaining. And if it's going to end by the end of the series, they need to start explaining. So now this story is stressing me out because I really don't want it to end on a plot line, because whatever about recasting Luke, Leia, Han, whatever, enough time has passed, you know. You can't recast Ray Stevenson in this show. Like, it's his show, it's his character. So you'll just have to drop it. And that'll have to be what happens here. So that's what I'm dreading. And I'm starting to feel like that's the case. Tell me I'm wrong here. Make me feel like I'm wrong, because I want to love this.
You're unfortunately not wrong. For me, to me, this is exactly what I was talking about when we first got on here, is that everything is now pointing towards where he's going. It's not even about Tron getting out of there. It's not about them finding Ezra anymore, because we've had both of those moments now. Tron is back and Ezra's back. We've had those moments. So now this is specifically about, what is Baylan searching for? What is this power? It's not just, I feel this is nothing to do with like, oh, he's gonna, we talked about like the possibility of the Grisks and the possibility of the Yu Zhang Fong and stuff like that. Definitely think there's, there might be a possibility of maybe an army or some sort of armada, or, a race, but there is an entity, a being, a force user, something at the end of this journey that he is searching for, that is so powerful that he could feel it from another fucking galaxy away. And this is the type of thing that Palpatine was talking about in those sequel books, that he was on the search for this being, this power, this whatever it is. And this is obviously where we're going with this. Exactly what it is, I don't know. There is a possibility that it is slightly tied in with the Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order series. Now, I haven't fully played either game, so you will have to correct me if I'm wrong here, but there's a race in it called the Zepho. Am I right by that? It's the Zepho. Basically, when it comes to the temple that the Star Destroyer is now on top of, basically, it's the Star Destroyers that are getting impregnated there. So the Star Destroyer is there. It's taking on all this cargo. I love that little bit with the cargo going in and it's showing it. So that was cool. But when they're standing outside in last week's episode, when they're standing outside the doors of it, there are hieroglyphs, like almost like hieroglyphs, and this kind of writing on the outside. And it exactly, now I don't mean it's, oh, that's just a throwaway thing. It exactly matches the writing from the game. And I do mean exactly. And it's all to do with the Zepho and this. I don't know it because I've not finished the game. I can't even play it because my both fucking controllers are broken. And I'm waiting for Mr. Vic Viper to fix them, but he'll get there eventually when he's not busy. It's a thing where is this something that is just thrown in there, or is it something to do with the Zepho, or something to do with a Force wielder as Zepho? I don't know. From pictures that I've seen, I'm like, Jesus, this could actually be really cool. But it's very clear to me that everything that's happening now is now taking a back step to what Baylan is searching for. This is how this is going to go. Everyone's on about like how Tron is this new big bad. And I'm like, clearly this is not what it is. Because when you look at the episode, last week's episode, they talk about getting out of there. And even Baylan said they're running. So Tron and the Great Mothers and the rest of them are running. And then even in this episode, Tron said, we need to get away from this accursed, or something along that lines.
Yeah.
That was the word he used, this accursed world, or this accursed place. So something is there that has both the Night Sisters and the Great Mothers want to get the fuck out of there as quickly as possible, wanting Tron to get back to his own galaxy as quickly as possible. Now, I think for different reasons that what other people think, but again, we will get to when we're talking about what we think is happening next week. And the fact that Ezra is a Force user, okay? So he is a Force user. He's a Jedi, whatever way you want to describe him. And I love the fact that Baylan used a different term last week when he was describing Ezra. It's a lot of people thought he was called a broken Jedi, but he's not. It's a Boken Jedi. So this is referring to Jedi who were trained after the fall of the Jedi Order. I was like, that's cool. So technically that means Luke is a Boken Jedi. I'm like, okay, this is a new term. I like this. I like making the lore even fucking bigger Absolutely. I love that. Absolutely. But the whole thing with it is Balin is searching for this thing. Okay. So a force user and a force wielder should be able to feel it. But Shin wasn't, or maybe she was and she didn't realize it.
And
So
he was surprised that she
he
hadn't. Like, that
was,
was
he
interesting.
was,
He was like,
yes.
surely you feel it. Like, so yeah,
Yeah.
that is interesting.
So you have a Jedi or a Boken Jedi, whatever you want to call him, who's been there for X amount of years. We don't know the exact amount, but it's something like 12, 13 years. And you're telling me he doesn't know about this
Jerry,
thing that's
stop.
there?
You're getting me back.
There's no fucking way. I am telling you now. It ends on a cliffhanger because when you actually look at the conversation he has, so we're going back to Ezra now. When you look at the conversation he has with Sabine, and it's all about, oh, so the Emperor is gone. And the Emperor's gone. Oh, very good. Well, okay, that's great. And it was just so like real nonchalant. You said, okay, that's good. Well, I suppose it's probably time for me to go home. Mm. Is it? Yeah. You're gonna go home. You're just gonna go home to Lotala and set up shop again, are you? Don't fucking think so, because you're bringing the big bad witchy, you bastard. I'm telling you. I'm saying it now. I fucking felt it last week, and I feel it this week. There's something wrong with Ezra, and you're telling me that this fallen Jedi is able to feel it from a galaxy away, but an actual Jedi can't feel anything wrong about this planet. Bullshit.
Okay.
We're going to get it next week. We're going to have Ahsoka feel something next week. I thought, now obviously wrongly, that when Ahsoka saw Ezra, that there would be something, but obviously just went up and hugged them. That, you know, but as I said, it was just so throwaway. Last week was real throwaway. This week reunion was real throwaway. There was nothing spectacular about it, whereas it should have been. If this was in Rebels, a spectacular moment, it would have been, but it wasn't. There was no spectacular. The band is back together. I didn't feel it. I didn't get it. I'm like, because we're getting something else next week. We're gonna get. I'm telling you, we're getting it.
Okay.
We're getting it. But the whole thing with Balin, we're now focusing entirely on that. Exactly. I can't tell you what it is. I can only give you theories. Could it be the Gris? Could it be Yu Zhongguang? Could it be a combination of the two? Could it be the Zephos? Could it be some other Force user or we don't fucking know, but there is something big coming. And I'm saying it now. Whatever this is now going to be the real big bad of the Ahsoka show.
Okay.
Not necessarily the big bad of the Mandoverse and the Endgame style movie, because I still feel that's going to be Tron. But Tron wanting to get the fuck out of there as quickly as possible. Why? It's not about, oh, we need to get back and get all the Imperial Remnant together. No, he's getting the fuck out of Dodge as quickly as possible. But I want to know the reason. And I think that's whatever this thing Balin is searching for, that's the reason.
You have me and you don't. I don't think if you so think about it this way, right? So Tron is essentially our Thanos figure in this scenario. Okay. Imagine Thanos showed up, and then we saw immediately after, at the end of the Avengers movie, you get him in the sticker, like, Thanos is here. And then the next time we see Thanos, he's running from Ronan. You're just like, well, how's Thanos the big bad? Because Ronan's better. So, like, that's the only thing, because for me, I think it's just more, we've had all our theories, and I think it's what we see is what we get, and what they're telling us the story actually is. And for me, the more the series goes on, the more sure I am that they're not actually pulling the wool over our eyes here. I don't think that you're wrong. I think there is something there with Balin. I just think that maybe that's not a B story, but it's more, it'll come into play, and it'll actually be an obstacle for our heroes and Tron and everything else. But what they've told us here is that this is heir to the Empire. That's what's going on here. They constantly keep repeating it. Tron is our big bad. And to have him just be terrified of this even bigger bad that somehow is probably going to end up getting defeated here. And then Tron becomes the big bad, even though we've seen someone that's worse. I don't know. For me, it's just a bit messy. But I don't think you're completely wrong. I'm definitely intrigued by the Ezra theory. I think you're onto something there. But again, I don't know. You've got my brain on fire again, Jerry. Though, where I was kind of like, no, I just think it's going to be just a normal finale. You have me like wondering for if there's going to be a twist here. So I'm intrigued. I like your theories. I don't know if I'm 100% on all of them. We did get to see a couple of firsts here in live action. Obviously last week we got Ezra and Tron back, and this was the first time we got to see Ezra in battle. First time a lot of people ever got to see Ezra in battle. First time we got a lot of people would have got to see Tron as a military commander. What were your thoughts on these? And particularly, like, I'd love to get like, like, what do you think of Cadro fan? Obviously, Laura's watching this as well, your wife, and there's a lot of Cadro fans. I'd love to know what their kind of thoughts are. But what do you think about these? Was this an accurate representation and a fair kind of glimpse of these people and how important they are? What were your thoughts on that?
Well, I'll get to the Tron stuff. This is, as you said, this first time in live action that we see Tron as an actual commander and commanding troops. I definitely think we had many an idea of what was in those stormtrooper armors from last week. I thought the possibility that we were going to get like is it Merrick
Maruk.
with the Maruk. I was nearly there. Nearly there. Now Maruk died and the green mist came out. I thought maybe that's what we're going to see when we see them die, but clearly they just died. Now, I definitely still believe that some sort of zombification type thing happened and the Night Sisters brought them back, or the Great Mothers brought them back. So I was actually half expecting to see when they went down that they might get straight back up. And like when that didn't happen and the rest of them legged that, I'm like, right, okay, so maybe it was just that they were using their magic to keep them alive or whatever. But once they die, they die. That's the end of it. But we only saw a small amount of him actual, he has them surrounded, that whatnot, and then he's like, oh, okay, well, they died, so, oh, well, acceptable losses, let's move on. I'm like, whoa, hold on. That's not very Tron-like. He doesn't like his people dying. It's as simple as that. Acceptable losses. And then you see, oh, well, this is why they're acceptable losses, because now they've run out of time and time is now on our side because we have everything loaded up and we're ready to go. Now, do I believe they're going anywhere out the rest of them? Fuck no. Either they are going to get away and the others are going to be stuck in this galaxy, or they're going to get on Tron ship and they're all going to go together. But I just feel Tron isn't exactly what I was expecting. He's still being acted amazingly. I think Mikkelsen is Lars, isn't it? Mikkelsen. He's fucking brilliant as Tron. He really he just embodies everything that Tron is. But for me, Tron doesn't throw away people's lives. He just doesn't, whether they're fucking zombies or not. Well, if they're zombies, then fine, they're zombies, whatever. That's why he's throwing them away. But he doesn't. It's all about like minimizing. He always wants to win. This is everything to Tron is chess, and he has to win, but he doesn't win at any cost. He was like, I want to do it in the way I do it, and it's minimal casualties, even to the point where it's minimal casualties on both sides. He doesn't like killing people. He just likes to win. And for me, it's not 100% where I thought it was going with Tron. Now, that might change as the next episode comes, and then obviously the next season. Now, we're going to be waiting at least 2 years for this next season, so buckle in, lads. You're going to be waiting a long time. But I don't know. I don't know. It's still living up to expectations, I think, but there's just something lacking ever so slightly when it comes to Tron. When it comes to Ezra and him coming in, like him fighting, I thought was class. I thought the fighting was, to me though, there was something about his fighting was cool. It was like, this is actually really cool. He's going through these lads like knife through butter. Like, this is really cool. But when he was like, the force is on my side type of thing, he refused to take any weapons. The force is on my side. Wouldn't take a blaster, wouldn't take a lightsaber. I was like, okay, well, just take something for fuck's sake. So he refused to take any of her weapons, but then picks up an E11 and starts shooting stormtroopers. Like, you could have just taken one of hers, you fucking idiot. His fighting style was good. His force using was shite.
Okay.
He was using it, and he was pushing stormtroopers. But I'm like, if that was Obi-Wan Kenobi, and he went force push, they'd have gone 3.5 miles down the fucking road. Whereas his was like, he literally pushed them over or pushed them into one of the kind of tank things, and they kind of got knocked out. And I'm like, it's very, very. It was something. I was like, no, this is not like we know how powerful Ezra is.
Yeah, it's like literally he was literally pushing them. Like it was literally like
it was
just
a push.
Just, yeah.
It was like push so I can punch him. Like you look at Kanan. Okay, look at Kanan's last moments. He held back a fucking massive explosion that would have destroyed him and the rest of the crew. Then he decides, well, one hand will do, and I'll just hold Hera back here. And then what does he do? He turns around, uses all his fucking force powers, and fucks them about half a mile away from the explosion. And I'm like, well, hold on a minute. Ezra, at this stage in his life, should be as powerful as fucking Kanan. But it was just very weak for me. I'm like, what's going on here? Is it just that that's how he's been written and Jer is completely wrong and that's it? Or is it because he's gone to another galaxy that his force powers aren't as powerful? Are they tied to the other galaxy? Is that where it comes from? Is the force not as strong here? What's going on? I want to know what the fuck is going on. Because even when it comes to the fight between Balin and Ahsoka, it was just purely lightsabers. There wasn't anything to do with the force that I can remember. I could be wrong there, but it was just force wielding. Lightsaber wielding battle. That's what it was. And I loved his like, you can't defeat me. And she's almost admitting, no, but we're gonna do this instead and then blow the shit and then she legs it on his alligator horse. So no, that's fine. But it's still living up to expectations. I'm still really liking the show, but there is something lacking with regards to our two main the big guys, the guides we wanted to see, which was Ezra and Tron. What exactly is going on? I don't know. Like even to do with Tron and the Great Mothers, he was like, "I need your assistance once again," and whatnot. Like this lad does not like force users. He doesn't like witchcraft. What's going on here? I want to know what's happening here, and we're not going to get the answer. This is a sad thing. We've one episode that has to have so much in it that we're not going to get all the answers to everything that we want.
And I don't know if we're going to get the answers to these questions, like specifically. Like I think Ezra, I hear what you're saying. I didn't think that at the time. Maybe I'll look back on it and I won't be able to unsee the weak pushing and stuff. But you make a lot of sense when you say it. I didn't mind it. I felt it was more just the necessity of the choreography to get the fight right and make it as entertaining as possible. So I don't feel that like it's a case of the force is weak here. I think that's just that'll overcomplicate things, especially like you say, got limited time. So but also, like, you know what? I thought it was badass him just declining to have a weapon. Like, again, that in itself is something that, like, even like Kanan and other people we've seen, even Ahsoka in this battle, she didn't decline to use her lightsabers, and Ezra's like, no, I got this. Trust me, I don't need a fucking weapon. So I can make up that, you know what I mean? But again, yeah, like we know what force users look at Darth Vader at the end of Rogue One. Now, Vader is obviously a different level to pretty much anyone we've ever seen, but look at what the full power of the force can do. The only thing he used his lightsaber for was to cut through doors, and everything, all the other carnage he did was just pure force using. So yeah, there is a lot of untapped potential there. I do like that. And to be honest, I think him going one with the force is very hippie. It's very Ezra. It's very on brand. And this is kind of what makes me feel safe that Ezra is just Ezra, because that is what Ezra now, 10 years from now, when he's living in this kind of animal commune scenario, that is the Ezra that we know. So there are a lot of things that for me, I look at and I see, yeah, that is Ezra, and that's him as a core character, while also being intrigued by your theories and wanting to hear more. But I do want to see him being badass, and I do want to see with both of these characters, and I agree with you, there was something missing from both of these, because again, for us, it's fine, we get it, we can see Tron's bigger picture, and we can see Ezra like being badass because we've seen it before. If it's your first time seeing it though, I don't think you understand that Ezra is as strong with the Force as maybe any Jedi we've ever seen. Like, he's done stuff that other people can't. He did stuff that just amazed Kanan. Kanan Jarrus, who, again, for anyone who doesn't know, Hera's lover and Jason's father, and also Ezra's master. You know, a really strong Jedi in his own right, but also by the end of it, in his last mission, he essentially said, Ezra, you're in charge. And he's like, whatever Ezra comes up with is going to be the right plan, and delegated a lot more to Ezra. And that was Ezra 10, 12 years ago, whenever it was. So again, that's how powerful Ezra is. I don't think he got the feel for that. Thrawn, I'm going to be honest, I found even more disappointing, because I don't think they've done him justice here. Like, I did love his reaction to learning about Anakin. I do love the little things when it comes to Thrawn, and I feel that's where this show is getting it right. Like, I love the fact that he instantly knew who Baylan Skoll was just by hearing his name, and he's like, I know all this context. You know, I loved the little subtle reaction where anyone who knows Thrawn knows he knows who Anakin is, and he knows how dangerous he is, and there's a lot going on there. But also, I wasn't mad on him pulling away constantly and claiming victory. That's not badass. It is very Thrawn. Again, for me, for you, we're like, yeah, Thrawn sees the bigger picture. He's like, yeah, I don't care about winning this one battle, because ultimately this has furthered my goals. And that's very Thrawn. He's a great military commander. He's seeing the bigger picture. But also, I think for the first time, we're seeing him lead a battle. For him to be this Thanos-like big bad, if that is indeed what he is, and maybe your theories are right, maybe what I've kind of spoken about throughout this kind of series about Thrawn maybe being an anti-hero, and that whole Timothy Zahn side of him that we've never seen kind of in TV, and maybe they bring that side out. If that's the case, then I can forgive all of this and it makes sense. But if he is a Thanos-style big bad heading into an heir to the Empire kind of endgame type scenario, which is what I believe is happening here, I think they've been telling us it, and I think we need to start believing it, then I think we needed a really decisive win here, where we're just like, holy fucking shit. Like, remember the start of Infinity War where Thanos destroyed the Hulk, where he killed Loki and he just totally left Thor, he just destroyed Thor, like internally as well as externally. And we all went, oh shit. Like, I felt that we needed that kind of moment from this. We needed our characters to take an L. And they didn't necessarily win because Thrawn pulled everyone out of it for strategic reasons. But I don't feel that we felt he's a badass. I think we felt that he actually lost that and he pulled away, but actually
he did. Yeah. He did lose that. Now, the one thing I will say is that if you look back on what he said, number one, when he finds out that Anakin was her master, so then he's like, right, I need to change my thought process here.
Yeah.
So we need to be one step ahead. So in his thought process, and this is my excuse for him being the way he was in terms of the fight, is that what he expected was, he knew what he had on the ground. He knew he had the master and apprentice, the fallen Jedi. He knew he had these two groups of stormtroopers, and that should have been enough to take on the others. But then he was like, even when you're looking at it, he's looking at his forces being deployed. He said, "Where is Baylan Skoll?" So basically, something has now happened to take away the advantage that he had, and that's why he lost. I don't question that he lost, because at the end of the day, he is a military man, but he is the smartest man in Star Wars. He can see things 2 or 3 steps ahead. Yeah. So the fact that he lost his main player here, and that's effectively what Baylan Skoll is. He's the main guy here. The fact that he lost him and all he had was his apprentice fucked up his plans. He's like, fuck, okay, well, we've distracted them. We've distracted them now, so that works in our favor because now we're ready to go. We've now got everything on board. So he's like, that's why Tron is taking the win here. But that's the only reason he's taking the win here. You know, had Baylan Skoll been there and had our heroes been defeated, then he'd be like, well, that's fucking 100% win. Whereas this is like 75% win.
Yeah, fair.
Or I'm taking the win here, but at the end of the day, we've lost people. But again, I'm like, unless those troopers are zombies, then I see a character difference now between what we should know about, what we know about Tron, and what we're getting, and I'm not happy about that. Unless it's a thing where they're all zombies and they've already died, then fair enough. He's like, fuck, it's acceptable losses. They're nothing. There's nothing
Yeah.
left in there. That's fine. But it's going to be very interesting to see exactly where it goes. The idea that he is the big bad obviously would be fantastic, but I don't want to see him really necessarily as the big bad because of what I know and what I've read and what I know about
Yeah,
Tron
I'm
from
the
the
same.
books. It's like I want him to be that anti-hero. It's almost
Yeah.
like I think I would love to see at this point, yes, the big bad is actually the Yuuzhan Vong or the Grisk. They're actually doing a proper invasion because they know that when the Empire was there, they couldn't defeat them. But now the Republic is there and they're weak. We can actually invade now. And that's what I'm saying to myself, maybe that's what it is. Maybe that's why Tron is trying to get back as quickly as possible because he knows what's coming to that galaxy. He knows what's about to happen. He needs to bring the Imperial forces back together so he can fight that and not necessarily fight the Republic. I know that's not what's happening. I would love it to be that.
We don't know, but like you say, you know that's what's happening, and I say that like, look, you think Ezra's turning heel. I don't think he's turning heel. You think that Balin is kind of central character. I'm not so sure. You know what I mean? That just underscores the reality, and this is what I want to get onto for our last discussion, that we don't know shit.
No,
we think we know, but we
We don't know
still
shit.
don't know shit. And we've got the finale next week. It's directed by Rick Famuyiwa. He was directed some of the best Mandalorian episodes. So The Prisoner, we love from season 1. That's the original Bill Burr episode. Amazing. The penultimate season 2 episode, The Believer. And also the best episode of season 3, The Spies. Again, the penultimate episode where we're like, holy shit, now we're sucking diesel. And then the finale, it's like, no, it was just one good episode. But Rick Famuyiwa again, is like Star Wars royalty at this stage, and he's very much in the Filoni Favreau club. So him being on directorial duties, Filoni being on writing duties, there's a lot to like about this. Now, having said that, okay, there's a few things right on the table here. Okay, Ezra, I think him saying it looks like I'm going home, he's not going home next week. Okay, so I think that's what I'm confident in. I feel, and I've said already, we're going to be majorly cock blocked with the end of Balin's storyline, teasing something they're not going to be able to pay off next season. I'm worried that if Zeb doesn't show up next week after name dropping him this week, I'm going to actually cry, because part of me is thinking maybe we did actually get him in Mando because we knew we weren't going to get him here and they're referencing him, and maybe we'll get him. They're saving him for season 2 or something. I'm worried now. I think also I want this to be an hour. I want this to get into meaty stuff. I'm fine with a lot of these episodes flying by and spending time in the world, but right now I need something to bite into until the next time we're back with these characters, which, like I say, could be 2 years away. I'm worried, if I'm being honest. I've loved this series. I trust Filoni. I trust Rick Famuyiwa, and that is what's sustaining me here. But there's a part of me that's like, there's a tension here with me where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to love this finale. I don't know if they're going to tie up everything. There's a lot that I really need to happen next week specifically. And I don't know if they have enough time and juice in the tank left for it. There's a chance that as much as I've loved every episode of this series to now, they could King Bran Stark me at the end of it. You know what I mean? And just piss me off with one
don't,
decision.
Jesus, don't do that.
I'm nervous here because I just don't see how they pull everything off. Make me feel better, Jerry. What do you think about next week?
Number one, and it's the one thing you don't want to hear, it's being left on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Simple as that. We're getting a cliffhanger next week because that's what Filoni does. Now, he didn't do it all the time in the likes of Clone Wars and Rebels, but he did it. And we are definitely getting a cliffhanger next week because, and as we know, because we know this is the one thing we do know about this, is that this season is one of multiple seasons, and this season is not getting a happy ending. It's not. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that someone's dying. I don't think they're going to kill somebody off. I think that would be mad. The one thing I am sad about is that probably Balin is not going to be killed off, and If he doesn't, then I am going to be really disappointed, because then either they're going to have to drop his part of the story next season, or they're going to recast him. And I'm like, that's just blasphemy, because he was so fucking so good. He has now become one of the most beloved characters in all of Star Wars, and he never knew it. And that's really fucking sad. Yeah, it's really fucking sad. In terms of Seb, there is one way we see Seb next week, and this is how I see it going. Take the conversation between the Chancellor and Hera. What did you find out there? Is this actually serious? Is Tron going to come back? She was like, prepare for what was it? She said, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. What do you think that means? To me, that means they're going to send a little fleet out to wherever they left off, where the whales were. They're going to send a fleet there. So that way, if Tron does make it back in next week's episode, he's going to be met by this fleet, and Seb is going to be there in either his Y-wing or his X-wing, wherever he's flying around in nowadays. Hera's going to be there with hers, but again, ain't going to be a happy ending, because either
they can't kill Zeb.
No.
They killed Zeb. I killed Dave.
No. Nobody is dying next week of our heroes. Okay. It's just not happening. I don't see it happen. I just feel that that's the only way we get Zeb next week, is that if the Chancellor decides, right, we're going to send an expeditionary fleet to the planet to find out exactly what's going on, to see if we can get any more evidence of where they're gone. Tron will turn up, or everybody will turn up, and then we get some sort of cliffhangery ending. Maybe other Imperial remnants turn up, or something happens, or whatever this other entity is, maybe that follows them, destroys the fleet or damages the fleet, whatever. This is wild speculation at this point. Yeah. But that, to me, is the only way we see Seb next week, if they send an expeditionary force to the planet. In terms of everything else, we are going to find out whatever this power is that Balin's looking for. This is what we're going to find out next week. Okay. And it'll be the start of whatever this is for next season. The whole thing with Ezra and Thrawn is, to me, it has been lacking something. Whether that is Filoni's way of disguising one thing with another, that Thrawn is what he's obviously scared, or maybe not scared. I don't think we've ever seen Thrawn scared, but he's obviously anxious, that he does want to leave as soon as possible. Then the whole thing is that they've spent so many years on this planet, but he couldn't find Ezra. What?
And what happened there as well? I'd love to know what like, we got Ezra getting caught up, but what was the other half of that conversation with Sabine, where he told her what happened in the meeting? Like, that's what I want to know. And that's what gives me belief that in what you're saying, because something happened there. Why was Ezra apart? Did he just run away as soon as they got to this planet? Like, what happened?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So it may tie into whatever this being is, whatever this power is that Balin's looking for. It's just very sad, because I don't think Balin's going to die. Not that I want the character to die. I don't want the character to die, but like, we need him to die, because he can't be recast. Now, the thing is, there has been sufficient time since Ray Stevenson dying earlier on in the year and the release of Ahsoka. So it might be that Filoni has, right, we need to change this. And it's a possibility. I did hear of changes that were made, but we didn't know what they were. So maybe that might be something to do with it.
Balin's skull died on his way back to his home planet. It's like, come on.
Stranger things have happened. But I think we're probably going to get a 50 to 1 hour episode next week.
Fingers crossed.
We are going to get, so obviously the band is back together. Call me crazy. People think I'm crazy all the time. That's fine. But I have seen other people looking at this theory going, and it's literally along the lines of, there's something wrong with Ezra. I'm not saying necessarily that he's a bad guy, or that he's definitely going to turn heel next week, but there's something wrong with Ezra. There is something wrong with Ezra. Because it's almost like he's acting when it comes to Sabine and the playfulness and the whole lot. There is something wrong there. We will certainly find out some of it. We're not going to get it all next week, because that's fucking crazy, because they want us thinking about it. Because if you're not thinking about this show a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks after it's over, then they didn't do the job right. They want you thinking about this and going, fuck, when's the next series out? When's the next series out? They want you theorizing. Filoni wants you on forums. He wants you on Facebook and on Instagram and Twitter talking and talking, hashtags galore. That's what he wants, because then he knows he has succeeded in creating something that's been memorable, something that's good. So he wants you talking about this. He doesn't want you to watch next week's episode and go, oh, that's grand. I'll come back to that now in 2 years. No, he wants this discussion for months on end. He wants to know what's actually going on. Where's this going? So we're not all your answers. You might get a quarter of them answered.
Like Rebels ended 5 years ago, and this is answering the questions that we had from that. So yeah, you're definitely right there. I totally agree. But Jerry, you know what? No better man that I'd love to discuss it all with. So excited to have a very special finale episode of Star Jers. We'll be focusing just only on the finale next week with you on Star Jers. But Jerry Soul, you've got me very excited and intrigued about your theories. And maybe you've just like set me up to be disappointed when none of them come to happen, and it's just really straightforward.
It's not going to be straightforward.
No, I know it won't be. I believe it. But Jerry, always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us yet again on page 180.
Pleasure as always.